The percent equation is a setup you can use to calculate just about anything you want to know about a percentage. In particular, percent equation is the following. Bear with me. It says part over whole equals percent over 100. So our goal is that if you're asked something about a percentage or how to write a ratio involving a percentage, if we can identify from our situation what's the quote unquote the part, what's the whole, what number is the percentage, if we can find two of those three, then we can solve for the third. Some clues. The whole generally follows or is near or it follows the word of. Out of. Out of how many? Generally is a clue for the whole. Percents are generally very obvious. They either have the percent symbol next to them or the word percent is right before them. And then anything else is the part. So for example, our first one here, we could set this up. It's a percent question. What percent is something else? So we know 100 always goes down here. What are some things we know in here? Jack?
45 is the whole.
45 follows the word of. That's probably a whole. Do we know the percent? No, it's asking for the percent. So we're trying to figure out what the percent is. And then what's the only thing left over? The part, which has got to be 15.
Wait, how come it's 40?
Because I miswrote it. Because it's supposed to be 45. And from here, now we can just solve this like we've done yesterday, like you did a bunch of practice yesterday. Cross, multiply, and solve. Now you'll notice that when you get to the end, you'll end up with, say, 45. X is 1500. Divide by 45. You're going to get yourself a repeating decimal.
33.
Do you generally think of percentages with decimals or percentages with fractions? Decimals. If I ask you for a percentage of something, it's generally written as a decimal. Decimals, this will be our like one exception to our rule. We'll go ahead and feel free to write decimals or even repeating decimals for fractions. That'll be okay for this one. But make sure you please write the repeating bar. X is 33.3 repeating percent, because 3 goes on forever. Makes sense as a percentage. 17 is what percent of 250? Well, it looks like a percent problem. So we have this basic setup. What's the information we have? What are we trying to find? How can we set this thing up? Whole is out of 250. Do we know the percent? What percent is asking for that? So we don't know what that is. So that leaves 17 as your part. Cross multiply and solve. You can do this one on your own. Well, we have a percent problem here. What information do we know? That should jump out at you. 36%. 36 is definitely a percentage. Do we know the whole? That's generally signaled by the word of. No, of what number? We're trying to figure that out. So we don't know the whole, so that means 72 has got to be part. What number is 45% of 300? 45% of 300 what number? Trying to find the part. Okay. Finish solving the one on the front side. Cross multiply and solve these two. Set up and solve the ones that we didn't get to yet. Okay? If you're intrepid, go ahead and work on the story problem and the graph problem that's below it if you feel up to that. Or we're going to come back together and solve and go over the answers to these together in about, we'll say, 5 minutes. Okay, so I want to see these solved, written and solved. You have 5 minutes. On the back side, we get 36x is equal to 7,200. Divide by 36. And you should get 200. 100x equals 13,500. Divide by 100. X is 135. What number is 70% of 180? Percentage goes above the 100. Of 180 is a signal for the whole. So we're trying to find x here, or 100. X is equal to 180 times 70 to 12600. X is therefore 126. 20% of what number? 18. So 20 x's are equal to 1800, or x is 90. Sweater you bought on sale for 15 bucks. The original price was 40. What percent of the original price was the sale price? Well, we're trying to find something involving a percent. So how we set up and use our percent equation? What percent? Well, how about we put an x there for a percentage? Trying to find it. What would be the whole in this case? 40. Because that's the original price. The sale price is 15. So this will tell us, this will say 15 is what percent of 40? Is what we're trying to solve. Or you end up with, say, 1500 is equal to 40 times x. Divide by 40. You get x was equal to, what do we get? 37 and a half? %. Lastly, looking at a graph here, and it says the following: a survey asks 300 people how many hours a week they exercise. The results are shown in this bar graph right here. How many people exercise for 0 to 1 hours per week? Well, what percentage of the people exercise that much? Oh, sorry, excuse me, 35. 0 to 1, 35% of the people exercise 0 to 1 hours per week. So how many people exercise? Well, it's asking what part of the people exercise 0 to 1 hours? Because they're telling you a percentage. They're telling you that 35% exercise that long. How many people are in this survey? What's the whole amount of people? 300 people are in this survey. So out of the whole 300, what part exercise 0 to 1 hours per week? Well, if we know the percentage is 35, you can find the part by cross multiplying with all. So how do we set up, say, B? How many people exercise 2 to 3 hours per week? What would this setup look like for B? How would you calculate to figure out how many people exercise 2 to 3 hours per week? Equals to 45 over 100. And so on. If I ask this, you can figure out the correct percentage, and if we find the part, we'll figure out how many people are in there.